we're all set.
Okay, ready to go? Okay.
Yes.
We will call our first meeting of the Jamestown City Council work session of 2021 to order. The clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Sheldon,
Here.
James,
Here.
Karuba,
Here.
Olson,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Eklund,
Here.
Graham Reinhardt,
Here.
Russell,
Here.
and President Doles.
Here, thank you. Do we have any correspondence tonight to be read?
I do have one email to be read. My name is John Zabrodsky and I live at 2 Timber Lane, Jamestown, New York, 14701. Mr. Doles and members of City Council, thank you for this opportunity to address you this evening. Why is there an outcry over the mayor's vehicle lease now? This seems like one more diversion cooked up by select members of City Council to lead the public view and commentary away from the real financial challenges in front of our town. Could one of the members of City Council please note what the materiality of this discussion has anything to do related to the financial position of the City of Jamestown General Fund? Many members of the City Council have voted for tax increases on multiple occasions without as much debate and consideration as you have given this lease matter. Mr. Doles, as an example, has voted to raise taxes at least 16 out of the past 20 years with very little public explanation. And now he is calculating interest rates and cost differentials on lease payments. The City Council has spent over $80,000 to study whether or not to build a garage over the past 5 years. It is in the midst of spending well over $500,000 to sue our neighbors in Ellicott and Faulkner. You have spent well over $500,000 to study police consolidation over the past 10 years. You spent well over $100,000 to study whether or not to sell the wastewater treatment plant. And the Jamestown City Council authorized borrowing over $13 million with a stifling debt payment per year and called it an investment. You didn't complain once over the past 20 years as former Mayor Teresi did just about anything he wanted with Jura and its budget. There was no oversight. There were no checks and balances. So where is your accounting for the nearly $2 million cited? Silence. The taxpayers and citizens of Jamestown have heard no accountability related to any of these topics. Or perhaps the mayor did not ask nicely enough when he decided to put the vehicle into the general fund budget. Or perhaps you missed the line item when you were reviewing his budget proposal from October 2020. In any event, we do need to take a look at things. Maybe it's time for a forensic accounting look back at the operation of Jura and how the money was spent there over the past 10 years. And while we are at that task, we should do a look back of the City of Jamestown General Fund as well. Maybe we will get a deal from the forensic accounting firm as a 2-for-1. The mayor and his staff may benefit greatly from this understanding and find better ways to program the Jura funds and additional savings opportunities for the City General Fund. This may be the only way the taxpayers and citizens of Jamestown can truly get some answers to the financial situation facing our community in 2021 and beyond, as well as holding to account the spending on the items noted and more. Thank you. And that was it.
Is that it? Is that the only one?
That's it.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I will address the issue of the car. That was discussed in detail in the 2020 budget preparations, as many council members who were there will attest to. It was also discussed in detail this year. The reason it was brought up more significantly is we laid off people and we were looking at every penny. Given many financial situations this year, a pandemic, little to no travel for the mayor, the suggestion was to move it to a payment for mileage. So Mr. Zabrodsky is incorrect in that, yes, we did look at the lease of a vehicle, but we also tried to attain that through paying of mileage. So as many council members, and even if Grant and Jeff were at that budget meeting when we discussed this with former Mayor Teresi, his lease was coming up in July and it was agreed to discuss it at that point in time. That didn't happen and a new lease came in. So there's the history of the car. So while he may feel that it's a personal attack and never addressed in the past, I can attest that it was addressed in the past and it's not a personal attack.
Mr. President, I also would like to address the police consolidation.
which please correct me if I'm wrong, that was a grant that the city received and that did not cost the taxpayers any money.
That is correct. I was
Correct.
gonna Address many of these issues. There's a myriad of issues that he brings up. Many of them, most of them did not come from the general fund, whether it was first of all, the city that's not suing anybody. It's actually the town and the village that are going after the city. The money that was spent was appropriated through the BPU budget by the BPU board. It did not come out of the city's general fund. And interestingly enough, Mr. Zabrodsky was also part of that board at one time. There's a lot of issues here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going after them. I will say that as far as voting for tax increases, he fails to mention that for several years, our tax increases were very minimal. It does not take into account the many cuts over the years, both in services and in the level of service and the number of employees and the consolidations that we've gone through. It wasn't just simply just passing tax increases for the sake of passing tax increases. Many difficult decisions were made over those several years that I've been a part of it, and many the rest of you have also been on for several years. So again, I think some of those complaints are disingenuous, they're incorrect, they're not telling the whole story. But since he called my name out, I felt a need to at least respond to those. And for the record, I just want to say that Mr. Zabrodsky's never reached out to me, never asked those questions to me, never sent me an email, a phone call, or a message. So I guess I wonder, who's playing political games here. So whatever, it is what it is. And we make difficult decisions, and you have to take the heat for some of those if people disagree with them. So anybody else have a comment? If not,
Jen, can you mail that, send us that letter via email? I would like to get a little further in-depth analysis of that. Thank you.
thank you. Are there any other?
I wanted to make a comment that I feel that this is a moot point. I don't know why this is being brought up again. This was voted on. It was voted that the mayor would keep his car. As far as I know, there hasn't been any more discussion, unless it's been behind closed doors, that I'm unaware of about his vehicle. I believe that the mayor should have a vehicle, whoever the mayor is. I think it's necessary for the position. When there's not COVID going on, there is some driving that takes place. And I think ultimately it would probably be more expensive to be paying mileage than for the vehicle. From what I understand, it's not a very large lease. And if we were to turn around and give it back, like Councilman Olson stated, that we would actually be losing money by doing that. So I think the mayor should have a car, whoever the mayor is, and I still stand by that.
Mr. President, I'd also like to comment. I think part of the issue that was raised was that it had not been approved prior to either the council or Jura voting on the lease of the vehicle. And I think that was part of the point, that the process was not followed as it should be when we are using taxpayers' funds.
Anything else on that? If not, we'll move on to our standing committees and the Finance Committee, and Chairwoman, Councilwoman Eklund.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have two resolutions, both public improvement funds. The first one, resolve that warrants be drawn and paid to the respective owners and paying agent the sum of $420,606.25 in accordance with the bond and note requirement as follows. Public improvement bonds issue of November 19, 2013, defeasance of 2004 Chautauqua County IDA bonds, $355,000 in principal, and $65,606.25 for 6 months interest at 2.625% per annum on $3,855,000. Note that this is the first of two payments scheduled for this year. The second is interest-only payment due on 8/1/2021. Any questions or comments?
Just public improvement, meaning things like such as,
In the backup of your packet, Tamara, it was for the Cherry and Main Street parking ramps.
okay, gotcha. I just want to make sure that people who are listening to.
Yep.
Questions. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome. Resolution number 2 is resolved that the warrants be drawn and paid to the respective owners and paying agent the sum of $216,406.27 in accordance with the bond and note requirements as follows. Public Improvement Bond Series A, issue of April 22nd, 2015, $170,000 in principal and $46,406.27 for 6-month interest at 3%, 3.00% per annum on $3,165,000. Note that this is also the first of 2 payments scheduled for this year. The second is interest only payment due on 7/15/2021. And for clarification, this is for financing DPW parks equipment, police and fire radio equipment, parking ramp, traffic coding, and Tracy Plaza improvements, and other building improvements within City Hall.
Thank you.
Saying that.
Nice for people to know what the money's being spent on.
And again, many of these bonds, you know, when we have this, it's nice to have the accounting of the history behind it and what they were for and where they came from. So thank you for sharing that information with the public so they understand what we're paying.
The other item that we have just for informational report on here was the 2021 committee meetings. And I believe that this was something the mayor wanted to discuss.
Yeah, well, I'll let him go. But I discussed this with the mayor. He wanted to know, at least for the time being, we have been probably for most of the last year not having specific individual committee meetings. We've been kind of doing them all at once in Zoom. So I guess the question that I wanted to throw out to the council before we made the decision is, do we want to have specific committee meetings on Zoom at different times and then all come together like we would normally do at a work session? Or, you know, I wanted to kind of throw that out there for a little bit of a discussion. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to, as President Dolson and I had prior discussed, we wanted to see if there is if folks would like to go back to the regular committee meeting, not necessarily scheduled, but being able to at least meet over Zoom before this general work session would typically happen. So we are able to schedule those. We would have to schedule those just some time apart, but we can try to bring some normalcy back to the meeting schedule if you all wish.
I'm not opposed to that, but I am opposed to doing duplicate work. So if we were to meet in a committee meeting 15 minutes before or whatever, let's use finance as an example, and just read these resolutions and then have to reread them and discuss them as a whole, it kind of becomes not necessary and a waste of people's time, I think. However, that being said, on the opposite side of the coin, obviously with budget deliberations, that's a little different. But if we were to get into something that was specifically a specific committee meeting agenda item, like I know public safety has met at different times regarding the police reform, and that's fine. If we had in finance something like that we needed to discuss, I would welcome that. But I think just for, and maybe I'm wrong, but just for general stuff like this that we just read tonight, I don't think it's necessary.
I also agree with Councilwoman Eklund. And I like that everybody gets to hear everything right at, the same time. And so my thoughts are the same as hers.
Maybe a suggestion would be, Mayor and Jen, would be, as you guys, or maybe even department heads who are thinking of submitting something to a specific department that they think is going to be a little bit more, to get that agenda item out maybe before Thursday afternoon. So if they want to email back and forth before the meeting Monday, that gives an opportunity as well. I mean, obviously not the bond resolutions, but if there's something that needs to be discussed is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. I know they're quite often, I give Jeff a call. I didn't today, sorry, Jeff, but, there wasn't anything on the Public Works for tonight anyways, but quite often I'll give Jeff a call. And we almost have a committee meeting before this meeting. And I've kind of said, I'd like to go back to having, maybe it's a 10-minute committee meeting before this meeting, just, throwing that out there. I agree, Kim, that sometimes you don't really need it. Sometimes I just call to make sure I'm clear on everything that we're discussing that night. And, but at the same time, probably other members of the Public Works Committee should be, there for that if they want to be.
I guess the question I have logistically is, normally when we do this in person, we have 3 or 4 separate locations and we're all meeting at the same time. And like tonight, for instance, since you didn't have an agenda, if you wish to come to the Public Safety Committee meeting or the Finance Committee meeting, I mean, council persons kind of usually would go in, they'd go out, media would go in, go out, your department heads go in, go out, depending on what was on specific agendas or whether there was an agenda. So I guess the question is, logistically, can we do that on Zoom? Can we Zoom in and out of different meetings? How difficult is that to do, rather than have,
Zoom does have breakout capability.
Right.
I've been on meetings with hundreds of people where we were in breakout sessions
Right.
where you break off into whichever group and it's regulated by the host. So it can be done. It's not impossible, but for some of the things I think I would like to hear, I know I'm on 2 committees and they both meet at the same time, and that made it virtually impossible to be on housing and finance at the same time. But I think it's been beneficial to hear, as both Councilwoman Eklund and Councilwoman James has said, to hear everything, because when we come back from the committees, we're reporting back. So for the people who've already been in the committee meeting, they're hearing it all over again from the chair who's reporting back. And some of the things that are in both finance and public works, a lot of the times they're the same resolutions. They may be coming at it from a different angle, but it's pretty much the same resolution. So I think it's actually helped in some ways, when we've raised housing issues and concerns, that everyone hears all of the information. But I'm not opposed if people feel breakouts would be helpful, then I'll do whatever, or go along with whatever the group would prefer.
I often speak to both Ryan and today it was Elliot and other things during the week too, but I guess maybe, I'm sorry to put some onus on you, Jen, or whatever, but I guess maybe a suggestion would be to try out and see, as the agendas come forward the next few weeks, see what you've got on them, and then maybe reach out to the chairs to see what their desire is before we send out a big release that you do on Thursday afternoon.
Sure, yeah, we can try and do that. The staff reports and resolutions are due on Wednesdays to the mayor's office so that they have a chance to go through everything, and then the mayor can sign off on the staff report. But if we know
me personally, it doesn't have to be formalized or typed, Jen. Can you be a phone call even?
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
Or a quick email saying you guys just have normal bond resolutions, or Ryan wants to discuss an RFP for something that might require us to get together.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that maybe we should reserve the special committee meetings for special situations, like in finance, if there's a bond issue that we want to discuss, a new bond, or some other major financial implication, or for public safety, again, like the police reform, and or in public works, if there's a big project that's coming up. So they have specific information they want to get out beforehand. So I guess that would be the way to go with it. And obviously the best case scenario is that we get back to meeting in person, but again, we're not sure when that's going to happen. So
Tony, I just have one other couple things that I want to just mention real quickly as the finance they came out of the budget and finance during that time real quickly. I spoke with Elliot today, just reminded him that as of 1/1, we set a policy that no take-home vehicles for outside the city, citywide, every department. You know, if you're a city employee, you're on the city insurance, cities, you know, that kind of stuff. Vehicles are fine for take home for city residents, but if you do not live in the city, no city vehicle to go outside the city. Again, that's not taking away your use of the vehicle. It will be at your job site for you once you drive in from your home from outside the city. And then there was one other quick thing, and I can't really remember what it was, but it was budget related. If I think of it, I'll bring it up again. But that was the big thing. That was a big policy and a big discussion. So want to make sure that it is done by all department heads citywide. Other than that, I just really, Elliot did send me the vehicle policy, and it is very clear in there. The verbiage is very clear. Elliot, thank you for that. So, and it has been in there, so it is nothing new. It's just time to enforce the policy.
Okay. So
Tony, I'd make it like a point about the meetings. One committee that really hasn't had anything to say or do during these work sessions, it's the housing committee. And as
Well,
we all
here's
know-
what I was just waiting for everybody to finish. One thing that we're going to do next week is we're asking Crystal to do an update for us. And also we're going to be like to start asking the community to start informing our committee of any issues, concerns, or any ideals they may have for us. Even, and letting them know that we may not be able to immediately solve the issues and concerns due to the absentee landlords, courts being closed due to COVID-19, or may just be out of our reach, but we can work on getting these things solved together. And I would like for Crystal to talk about an issue about a thing that starting to form a citizens advisory group to work with the housing committee. So Crystal, can you just talk a little bit more about that citizens advisory committee that would be working with us?
Sure. So it still needs to be developed. And I think that's something I would request that the housing committee work with me and my department on developing what that looks like exactly. It is something that was proposed in the consolidated action plan. So it will be part of the plan when it's reviewed and approved by council as well as HUD. So I would love to get that started. We really don't have to wait until the end of January when the plan is to be approved. We can start now and start to have that conversation. So as far as the committee itself goes, it's really, I guess I envision it as sort of a citizen-led advisory group. Maybe they meet once a quarter. It might be more regularly than that even. I guess that's yet to be determined. But we're looking at it as an opportunity to get the community more involved in housing issues and in implementing the consolidated plan, the annual action plan, being part of finding solutions and just being more engaged in the housing issues that we have.
Yeah, and those will probably be separate Zoom meetings like the shareholder meeting. So those will probably be some things that we'll be doing separately from the meeting, from our work sessions.
Yeah.
All right, just to close out that discussion and move on. It looks like let's go into the week to see what the agendas are, and then we'll determine, the chairs can determine if they want to set up special pre-Zoom meetings beforehand. Again, like tonight, if you have a committee that doesn't have anything, or it's just routine things that can just be brought out publicly all at once, then there's no need for that. So we'll kind of play that by ear. Does that sound?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to public safety and Councilman Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. President. For informational purposes and report, we have tow rate card request for DWAG flatbed services, Adams Towing, Johnson Family Towing, LLC, and Victory Auto. This requires a motion and a vote from the Public Safety Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Second. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pass. Jen, do I need to come in tomorrow and sign these cards?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I might just do some informational stuff about the stakeholder meetings. I know Vicky just mentioned them. Is that all right here?
Yes, number 2 is the police reform update. Yes.
Pardon me? Just
Number 2
update.
is the police reform update.
Oh, I guess I didn't see the second part of the agenda. Sorry.
That came this afternoon. It was
Oh,
not.
all
on
right. I
the
haven't been.
agenda.
Go ahead. Go ahead then. If you want to go ahead and start.
Nope, you can lead it off.
Oh. I had asked that this be put on the agenda today. Just wanted to inform the council and the community. The Public Safety Committee, myself, Vicki James, Brent Sheldon, and Jeff Russell have been working kind of behind the scenes to form the stakeholder groups, which is like the first step of discussing the police reform collaborative that's been mandated by the governor. We have been holding some stakeholder groups, but as many council members are aware, and I apologize for the lateness of my information that was sent out, there were some people who didn't really fit into a specific stakeholder group or were not able to participate during the times of day that we structured the stakeholder groups. And so I hope that release went out. I threw together a really quick press release and a Google form and sent it to the mayor's office and asked him to send it out, as well as link it to the city website. I asked Chief Jackson to put it on the police Facebook page, and I asked, I think, the mayor to put it on the city Facebook page. And so basically there are a series of dates this week, either 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock, so that people can participate either during the day or during the evening if they can hop in to engage in these stakeholder conversations, and we'll have them out throughout the course of the week. We're asking that people register so we know who, basically how many we're going to have, either through the Facebook link, the link on the website, or by calling the mayor's office and setting up some registration there. And I'm inviting any council members also who would like to participate to do so. I just might need some help with running 1 or 2 of the sessions if somebody can, if one of the people from the Public Safety Committee can help out. But that was kind of my way of extending it to people in the community who have not had a chance to voice their concerns or provide some insight on what they believe police reform should look like, as well as for those council members who are working during the day who have not been able to participate. I wanted to at least give them that chance. So after all of the stakeholder groups are done, hopefully this week, the Public Safety Committee will be reconvening to kind of look at our next steps. And so we don't have a lot about that to report because we need to pretty much consolidate some information from all of these stakeholder sessions and then discuss what our next step is. So I hope that clears a few things up for people. The sessions have been good. I've sat in on a few. People have been providing some very insightful information and some good things. And so I think we're well on our way to looking at something good for the city of Jamestown. If anybody has any questions.
Tim, do you have the dates and the times in front of you? I'm trying to find it in the email, but I can't find it.
They were going to be starting on Tuesday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I scheduled them for 1 o'clock and for 7 o'clock. And then I scheduled one for 1 o'clock on Friday.
Grant, it's an email from Michaela.
Yeah.
They're all in there.
We have, it's January 5th at 1, January 6th at 1, 6 or 7 p.m., January 7th at 1 or 7 p.m., or January 8th at 1 p.m.
hopefully those are enough times for people to select a day.
Tamu, I can host whatever you want. I'll get a hold of you privately on
Thank you. Thank you.
what ones you want me to jump in on.
I still have one stakeholder group that I'm pulling together that I'll be doing at, I plan to do at 6 o'clock on
Wednesday, I think.
Wednesday. That's the Hispanic Latino group. I've got maybe 6 people so far who have agreed to participate. I'm still looking for a few more. So if the community's out there, please reach out to me. But there are some people I've been meaning to call. So that still has to happen by Wednesday. So that'll be from 6 to 7.
I also too will host one of those. Like Jeff, I'll contact you.
Thank you. I
for which
appreciate it.
one you-
For offering all those different times too, for the convenience of other either.
It didn't, if Kim hadn't said anything, I probably wouldn't have thought about it. But the fact that people work during the day, and I know Kim's wanted to sit in on a few, I realize that there are probably several people out there who have not been able to participate. So I think that we need to make that available to everyone. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And a lot of those we held during the daytime was due to the fact that a lot of those people work for not-for-profits or law enforcement at that shift. Some of the faith-based ones, the ministers. So we were trying to work around their schedules as well. But yeah, we definitely want to open this up to everybody. And you know, if anybody else has any other questions, they can't attend one of these, if they can submit an email to any of the council people who are involved or the city clerk, we would definitely appreciate their input.
Yeah, and I want to thank the mayor and his staff, because I literally was sending emails on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day to you know.
Time and a half.
Yeah. Not in the budget. You'll have to, I don't know, comp it.
Mayor, would you like to add anything else to the police reform initiative?
Sure thing. I would just like to add that the stakeholder groups, the majority of them are via Zoom. So if you register, we'll want to send you that link. There is one that is audio conference only for those that don't have the additional technology available to do Zoom. Although for each of those other sessions, you can call in through a Zoom line. But one of the sessions we did schedule to be a local phone number audio conference bridge only for those that don't have the technology. We want to encourage folks to just go on our website or call our office. Just click on the Police Reform Initiative on the city's website, and you can go ahead and pick which stakeholder group you'd like, or call the mayor's office at 483-7600 and just ask to be put into one of those stakeholder groups. That was
Thank you.
Just to clarify, maybe someone already mentioned it, this is for city residents, correct?
Or business owners.
Correct.
Anybody would like to add anything else?
Far so good. We'll report more when we have more to report.
Okay, thank you. That's all from public safety.
Yeah, from our standing committees. So at this point, if there's no other new business by the council, anything else? If not, we'll give the mayor his time.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And again, Happy New Year. The first work session came very quickly after the first, so you have a very light agenda. I apologize. I don't believe the next one will be as light. So I guess we can enjoy it while it lasts. But I do want to give you all just an update. Number one, many of you have probably seen over the last couple of days, there were well over 400 cases of COVID that have been identified in Chautauqua County. The city has not been immune to that. Just to give their council members a bit of an update, most of our COVID individuals have recovered and have returned to work. There are still some individuals that are on quarantine because of family members may have also gotten it. However, we do have some departments that are still being impacted by it. At this time, we do have additional COVID quarantines going on throughout our finance office, as well as through our Department of Development. We don't anticipate that some of those operations will be impacted, except for the Department of Development, who does have some of its administrative staff currently quarantined. They are answering calls and they are working from home. We just ask that the public give that office a little bit of time to get through things during this period. The other offices are all operating at this point back to normal with a few COVID exceptions. Again, I encourage all of you to please stay safe, please stay home. As many of you know, the President Dulce and I share a birthday, which is New Year's Eve. And many folks have asked what I did for my birthday, and I just stayed home. And I think that's most of us have done the exact same thing. And it's painful, but we have to keep trying. The majority of our cases from the city have come from social events and social spread. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. I do also want to add just a few other brief updates for folks. Number one, at the next work session, I have asked our departments to prepare a brief review of their achievements for 2020. Although we're probably all glad to see 2020 behind us in the rearview mirror and looking into 2021, I don't want to discount all of the great work that actually has been done in the city for 2020. So our departments will be working to present the top 3 achievements from each department, as well as a brief look at goals going into 2021 at the next work session. And they're all very excited to share with you what they've done, what they've worked on throughout the year. So we'll be getting that out to you shortly to make sure that you guys have that in advance for the next work session. The other thing that I just wanted to keep folks aware of, we are going through the process now of doing reappointments and appointments to boards and commissions. There are a lot of spots that the period has lapsed at the end of last month. So we will be going through there. If we have openings, we will let you all know as people respond back to us on whether they want to stay on a board or commission or not. So please keep that in mind. If you have individuals that are interested in serving on a board or commission, let us know so that we can flag those individuals and try to make sure that they get an application as we start to go through that process. I will let the council know once we have finally signed an appointment or getting ready to do that, we're going to be providing the full application as you guys have been accustomed to, even if it is a reappointment to a board. So you will have full information from an individual that is going to either be reappointed or appointed to a board. The last thing I have for you all, and then one executive session item, is I have today sent a letter to all of our unions at their recommendation, which I thought was a fantastic one, which is to reconstitute the Healthcare Advisory Committee in the city, something that has not been around for some time. That committee is made up of a union member and a union member retiree from each of the bargaining units. And we would like to also put on at least 2 council members, as well as our staff, to look at all of the healthcare options that we have going into 2022. I think it is important that we start to work together to try to figure this out, utilizing both our union members, our retirees, as well as our council members to find the best course of action. We know that costs of healthcare continue to rise. You probably have all seen it in notices you've gotten on your own personal healthcare. And we want to try to work together to find ways to start to be smarter at the work that we do with our healthcare, and also work to save funding for not only our members, our employees, but also funding for the city. So please keep that in mind. We'll be reaching out to all of the council members tomorrow morning if you're interested in being a part of that, please let me know. We are waiting to, and we'll be getting shortly, the members of each of the union bargaining units that will be a part of that advisory committee as well. I do have only one update for executive session, which would be an update on the pending litigation cases. Mr. Armando will be going through any litigation case that we currently have against the city in executive session tonight. See if there's any.
Mr. Mayor, I just had a couple of things. I was just wondering, one, how many are still in quarantine?
I don't have that number right offhand, but I'm happy to pull that together and get that to you. We have, I would say, if I was guessing, I think about less than a dozen, but I will double check.
And the second one, I was just wondering, will you be using your list for the people, the citizens that are community that applied for the Human Rights Commission? Because I remember there was a question if they didn't get on that board, would they be interested in another committee? So would you be using that list also to fill those, if any of those positions on committees?
Yes, we will actually, we typically let those individuals know that have applied in the past. So what we do is with the application process, we're able to grab folks that have applied in their email address and phone number. And every time that there is a new opening where we know someone's not going to be reappointed to a board, we'll let those individuals know and they could indicate if they're interested. But we're always looking for more folks. We've got a lot of kind of task force and advisory committees coming up that we want to fill. As you all know, I've mentioned in the past, we're working to put together kind of an animal task force in the city that focuses on a lot of the feral cat issues. So that's coming up. There are people that probably didn't apply for human rights that may want to be on that. So we're always looking for more individuals so that we can let them know once we have openings.
Mayor, I have one question. Maybe Deputy Chief Coons can answer this, but do we know when our firefighters, specifically the EMTs, will be vaccinated against COVID?
We do. So how our program is going to work is Chautauqua County is working with us to make the vaccines available to all first responders. Every member of the fire department qualifies, and this week the first members are going to be receiving their vaccines, including myself. The registration process is totally up to the individual members. We give them attestation letters so they can present them at the treatment sites so that it's verified that they are members of Jamestown Fire Department. And there's an online registration process that they have to go through the New York State Department of Health. So the individual member will sign up for that. We'll give them their letters, and then they're responsible to report on their own. And that's beginning this week, and I expect it to continue on through the rest of the month.
Great. Thank you very much.
Just to add on to that, Councilmember Sheldon, to let you know, at this point, the first wave is just EMTs. So it's not specifically firefighters. It's although our firefighters are also EMTs, they're now eligible because of their EMT status. Police and firefighters will come in another wave of vaccination. And as many of the, as you may have all seen last week, with the help of Deputy Chief Kuhn, we prepared a vaccination policy on behalf of the city to allow our employees, if their time is the only time slot they get to get the vaccine is during work hours, we do provide some leave for them to go get the vaccine. We recognize how important it is, although we don't require them to get it. We want to encourage our employees to get it should they feel it's necessary or a good health decision for them.
Anything else? If not, do I have a motion to go into executive session for
So move.
possible litigation? That was by Councilwoman James, correct?
Yes.
Second.
By Councilwoman Karuba. All in favor of executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
No action to be taken, I assume.
Correct, President Dulce. No action to be taken. This is simply a review of all active legal cases against the city, and we'll require Mr. Raimondo to join us all the rest of our folks are welcome to enjoy the night.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And for public, thank you for attending, and we'll see you next week at our next work session.